So Bumblebee is a new installment in the Transformers franchise. This one isn't directed by Michael Bay, it's directed by a guy called Travis Knight, who directed Kubo and the Two Strings, which is a film I really liked. And this one focuses on the character Bumblebee, who crash lands on Earth and is being chased by the army and loses his memory and meets a young girl and forms a friendship with her and is trying to stay hidden from these evil Transformers who are trying to find him. Now I should say that I've never really been a big fan of the Transformers franchise as a whole. I didn't really watch the cartoon when I was younger. That was more my brother's thing because they came out in the 80s and I was born in the 90s. I remember watching it, but I don't remember that much about it. I remember I had the toys, which I liked, but whenever they were making the original films, when it was coming out in 2007, I didn't really have any expectations or ideas of what I would want from a Transformers film. So when I went to see the original one, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was alright. It seemed like they were going to make a Transformers film. This is the kind of thing that they would do. And apparently a lot of people were upset by it and thought, you know, this isn't what Transformers is all about, and they thought that about every other Transformers films throughout the franchise, of which there are now 5 films, 6 if you count this one. And I've seen them all pretty much only once. I think they're okay, they're not good, but they're not unwatchable, they're fine. They get a lot of hate, but I don't hate them. This one isn't directed by Michael Bay, so it's good to see him sort of step away from the series and go and do something else, because he has had some good films that I liked in the past, and the Transformers have not been the best of his films. The best way to describe this Transformers film is that it's a much smaller story. The other ones are very big and epic and action-packed, and this is smaller, more character-focused, and builds more on the relationship between the different characters. It still has the action in there, but there's not as much, and it's not as over the top as the other Transformers films. So you do care a little bit more about the characters in this one because they're more likable and their relationships are better established than in the other ones. The relationships are also a bit more believable. Haley Steinfeld plays the main character in this and she's a really good actress. I thought there was a few inconsistencies with her character, things I didn't like, things I didn't really understand. It's not her acting, it's more the way the part was written. I don't think that the film does a good enough job establishing what the character wants. I mean, you're shown very early on that she wants a car, and that's, you know, pretty basic, but it doesn't really explain why she wants the car. There's a few shots which show that maybe she wants it because she wants to be popular, or because she wants to have friends, or because she wants to, I don't know, get the popular guy in school, and that's all shown in pretty much a couple shots, but it's not clear which one it is or if it is any of those, other than I want a car, teenagers want cars, cars are good because they make your life easier. I didn't think it was really made clear enough, and because why she wanted the car wasn't really set up enough. Whenever she asks her family for a car and they say we can't afford it and she's really huffy about it, I don't really relate to her. I'm more siding with her family, who are really nice. You know, she kind of treats them like they're annoying, but they're kind of funny and they're nice, and like it was always siding with them more than her, which I thought was a bit of a problem, because she, you know, has like a stepdad who's you expect to be kind of a dick, but he's not. He's just pretty nice and he means really well, and he's a wee bit goofy, but I think that at the start of the film I should have been siding more with her and been more on her side than on her family's. I liked her love interest character. I thought he was really well handled, and these sorts of films and a lot of Hollywood films, whenever they show the different things that a guy will do to get the girl, the sort of things, but whenever you say them out loud and you sort of picture doing that in real life, it's very stalkery and creepy. But this he's pretty normal. He kind of looks at her like you'd expect a real person to look at her, like, yeah, she's cute, I like her, I want to ask her out. Just try and get up the nerve to talk to her and try to find the right time, and I liked the way that was handled. It was very realistic and it made him a likable character and a very relatable character, and I liked the way the relationship between those two was handled, because it is very realistic too, because this film takes place across a few days and we don't expect them to really hit it off and be really into each other. But you can see, you know, the start of their relationship, and it's kind of like a budding romance. So at the end of the film, it's not really over the top in their affection for each other. It's more friendly. Maybe it could be something else. It was a nice change of pace. It was like a fresher way to look at sort of teen romance. John Cena plays one of the antagonists in this film, and I really like John Cena as an actor. He's really good at playing that sort of funny, tough guy role. I think in this film he might have been miscast, or maybe his part wasn't written well enough, because it's not really clear if he's supposed to be kind of a funny hard ass or kind of a mean guy, or maybe both. They kind of try to do both, and I think they should have just gone with he's a funny tough guy, or he's kind of like an evil, intense military guy who wants to get his target no matter what. They kind of try to mix the two, and I don't think it works that well, because at times you do think he's funny, and then the next scene you're like, you don't like him, and then the scene after that it's something else. It was just a wee bit inconsistent. I thought it could have been done better, but he was really good. I don't think that he was the problem. There was a problem that I noticed with the music in this film. There are scenes where they really try to channel John Williams. It really sounds like a John Williams score, like something from E.T. or Home Alone, and that makes sense because the story is very much like E.T., where the girl's trying to hide the robot in her house and, you know, make sure the parents don't find out, and the robot's like sort of sneaking around the house whenever everybody's out, and the music that plays really sounds like something from a John Williams score, and it works in those scenes, but it really draws attention to the fact that the rest of the film doesn't really have a very memorable score or very good score. The music, I thought, should have really been more emotional, seeing as the focus of the story is on the two characters and their relationship with each other. And I think that if they had had a good theme to go with that relationship, they could have played and built throughout the whole film, then it would have been much more satisfying at the end when the story comes to a resolution. People are saying that the action in this film is much better than the other ones, and it probably is, but I think it's just a problem inherent with the design of the Transformers that doesn't lend itself to very coherent action sequences. It's like no matter what they do with them, the designs of the characters are just really busy, and whenever they're flying around and punching each other, it just looks like a confused, busy, like metal soup. It's very hard to follow anytime there's anything closer than a very wide shot. Anytime it comes to a medium shot or a close-up, the two different Transformers always look too similar, so it's really difficult to tell them apart, and you don't really know what's going on, so you don't care what's going on. The problem persists in this film that was established in the other ones, where they don't really set up the rules for how much damage the different weapons and Transformers can cause to each other, or how powerful the Transformers are. So you'll have different scenes where they're punching each other, or they're stabbing each other with things, or they're shooting each other with lasers and rockets, and sometimes it'll kill them and sometimes they'll just brush it off, and other times it'll do something else. So whenever these things happen, you don't really know how to feel because you don't know what the stakes are. When you think about the different Avengers films and you sort of think, well, what would happen if Thor fought Captain America? Well, Thor would probably win. Well, what would happen if Captain America fought Iron Man? Well, we don't know, they're kind of evenly matched. Or what would happen if Hawkeye fought Captain America? Well, Captain America would win, and you know that, so whenever those characters come together to fight, you know how to feel about it, and you know how it's kind of going to turn out, and that makes more sense, and it means you care more about the conflict. There's a weird thing in this film. There's two different scenes where two different characters take their shirts off, and I won't really say exactly what happens, but in the first one, it kind of makes sense why he takes his shirt off. It makes sense in a Twilight New Moon kind of way, where it doesn't really make sense and it makes you cringe, but you can kind of understand it. And the second one, and if you do watch the film, just remember this scene whenever she says to the guy, take your shirt off, and he goes, what? It's like, take your shirt off. Try to think why she asked that, because I can't think, I don't know why. What she does with the shirt makes no sense to me at all. It just seemed like a weird thing that they were trying to go for a bit of comedy and then they forgot to write in a joke. I thought it was really strange. So I thought this film was just good. It was fine, it was good. I think that a lot of other people will really, really like it. I think that if you're a fan of the Transformers franchise, you probably will really like it, because it's a different spin on the usual Transformers story. But there are a lot of things to like in this film. I liked Haley Steinfeld and the other male lead. I liked John Cena. I liked her family. I thought they had a lot of good moments, some really funny moments. I think that I liked the premise more than the execution. The idea of a young girl finding a robot and working through her different emotional issues because this robot's her new friend, and there's an outside threat that leads to the climax and the end of the story, I think is a really good premise for a story. I think just the execution here wasn't as good as it could have been. And I would recommend going to see this film. I think that you could even take young kids to it. I think it was a PG film, and there's nothing too bad, I think, for young kids. I think they could go see it. They could handle it okay. You could kind of see them trying to make it more family friendly as it was going through, because there's a thing where the evil robots, when they shoot a human, they turn into water. Or like slime or something like that. You know, it's very, very kid friendly. I thought it was strange. Kind of made me laugh, and I don't think it was supposed to. I think the general audiences will like this. I don't know about big fans of the Transformers cartoon, if they'll think that this is the Transformers film they've always wanted to see. It doesn't seem anything like any episode of the Transformers I ever saw, or from what I remember. They handle the 80s nostalgia thing really well, because this film is set in the 80s and it does a lot of the different aspects of that culture, but it isn't really thrown in your face. It isn't too over the top. Lots of music, which is fine, and the way people dress and the design of their houses and things, because it's not too different. You do kind of forget that it's set then, because there's not a lot of references to it, you know, really in your face references, which I liked. It was just simple. I think they just set it in the 80s, so it made sense and wouldn't disrupt the continuity of the original Transformers films. I like films like that are set a bit in the past. It kind of makes them timeless by setting them in the past. There were a lot of really contrived plot points in this film that I didn't like. There were a lot of, well, we need to get this character from A to B, but we don't know how. Well, we'll just have someone do something stupid and that'll lead them there. There's also a story beat where it's set up that Haley Steinfeld used to be a high diver, and her dad really got into it, and after he died she didn't do that anymore, and there are a few references to it, and then at the end, whenever she's called upon to do her diving thing again, it makes sense. That's a good thing to have as a story arc to show that the character has changed, but the reason she does it at the end is really forced. It wasn't necessary when you really think about it. It didn't contribute to anything. It would have been a lot stronger if it had. I'm always confused when I see the Transformers films, why they choose certain actors to play the voices of the Transformers, because for the most part they pick like famous recognizable people, but you can't tell it's them most of the time. The only voices I've ever recognized in the Transformers films are, well, Peter Cullen, because he plays Optimus Prime and that's what he's best known for, and Hugo Weaving and John Goodman, and that's about it. Every other one, you can't tell it's them. This one is Angela Bassett and Justin Theroux, who don't really have very distinguishable voices. When they put all the metallic sounds and the Transformers sort of sound over their voice, and all the sound effects involved with that, it doesn't even sound like them, so I'm always confused why they do that. Unless you have just a voice actor or someone with a really, really distinctive voice like John Goodman, I don't really see the point of it. It kind of confuses me, and I'm trying to figure out, kind of as I do whenever there's a voice performance in the films, like who's that, and you'd never be able to tell, ever. So I don't know why they chose those actors. They do a fine job as the characters, I suppose, but we could have just had, you know, voice actors doing it. I'm going to give Bumblebee a B-. I didn't think it was great, but I did think it was probably better than all the other Transformers films that had come before it. Thank you very much for watching my review. If you like this, please like and subscribe down below. If you've already seen Bumblebee, please comment down below. Let me know what you think about it. If you agree with any of my points, if you disagree with them, or if you have any points of your own, please comment. And I'll see you next time.